Yo, Wagwan, big up, why pre, where you depan, where you deal with, you don't know it go. But want to have a quick talk about the Community Shield game coming up in 2 days' time. That would be on Sunday. Not sure of the time, the specific time the game will be played, but it's football is coming back. It's time now, get back to football. It's been a long break, can't lie. I've been trying to occupy my mind with the preseason games. I got to catch a majority of those, and I'm also keeping an eye on the Women's World Cup as well. I don't know, Jamaica women's actually just qualified to the knockout stages, so very big achievement. Proud of the girls, but I don't know, Manchester City versus Arsenal in the Community Shield. A lot of people don't care about this game because there's not really much on the line. I'm sure nobody's season is really going to get derailed by losing the Community Shield. But what it will bring is an opportunity for both teams to show their preparation and basically brush off the last bits of rust before the actual season starts. Because everyone would love the best possible start. Arsenal, particularly, had a magnificent start to the last Premier League season. I'm sure to the best of their ability, they'll be aiming for something similar this season in their bid to end their Premier League title drought. So I've been thinking about this game and I'm wondering what aspect of this game, what level of intensity will we be getting in this type of game? So I do feel like this will be a bit more intense than a lot of people are expecting. I think back to the last Community Shield, we played against Liverpool Football Club. Mohamed Salah came into that game. By the way, they had a good preseason. I believe they played about 4 games. In their preseason, we had 2 games before that Community Shield, so we did not look ready for the season at all in that game. Liverpool's intensity out of the blocks completely shocked us, and they were the ones setting the momentum in the game. They created a majority of the chances in the first half, and I believe they ended the first half 1-0 up. It was in the second half where we ended up equalizing through Julian Alvarez when him and Foden linked up and the ball slipped from Adrian's hand. Alvarez put it away and we got back level. But shortly right after that, was it what's his name? Salah got a penalty. I don't remember who gave away the foul for that penalty, but Salah scored his penalty. Darwin Nunez scored his last minute goal, celebrate like him in the Champions League, all of that madness. But the key point I took from that game is the level of intensity they came with. If you remember the season before that, we beat them to the league title by 1 goal. This season, we were playing against an Arsenal team who were performing above a majority of Premier League fans' expectations, and they actually mounted a title charge to which it kind of slipped away at the end. I do feel like they'll feel hard done by that type of end to the season, and I think they'll look to justify that in this game. They're playing against us, the ones who they were in the title race with. There were a lot of mental battles between the players. Both games were immensely tactical. There was a lot of mind games flowing around between the fan bases as well. As you guys know, the big shark. But I feel like Arsenal players will want to show their fans that this season is different, and they'll want to come out with a different level of energy and intensity for us to maybe not expect and shock and get a shocking result from this game. I do think Arsenal would benefit more from a win out of the Community Shield personally, because you know aside from the fact that their fans do get a bit excited when they see good performances from their team. Throwback to last season when they won their 10 games or 9 out of their 10 first games in the Premier League, and it was oh, we're going to win the league. T-shirts being printed by December, Boxing Day, and all that stuff. But I don't know. We don't watch that. But I do think that the level of intensity is one that we have to make sure that we are ready for. And another thing I am very interested in keeping an eye on is the tactical battle and the strength of the 11 that will start the game. I'm very curious to see if both teams will be willing to, show their hand in this type of game. There is not much on the line, as I said. The Community Shield would be a welcome trophy, but it's not necessarily a massively desired one either. So I think it will be more about the what it will bring preparation wise for the actual start of the season, in which our season starts this Friday. But also like just that first mental edge over the team as well, because I do feel like beating us in the Community Shield last season gave Liverpool a bit of mental cutting edge against us in that first game that we played them again at Anfield. It was a few weeks after that. I think it was in maybe October, or maybe in even in September. But they won that game 1-0, and we were the ones clearly on a better form. But I think part of the motivation for them will be that, yo, we just beat these guys, literally just beat these guys for the start of the season. So we can step up for this game. And Liverpool are always up for a game against us. I think Arsenal will develop in a similar way. I think they'll want to really express themselves in the type of game like this. And there are a few key players that I want to keep an eye on. Although speaking on the 11 a little bit, or not even that. Let's go back to the tactics predominantly. I'm thinking about Pep versus Arteta. What will they want to portray in this game? Will it be, this is my main system that I'm planning to dominate, for like, not dominate, properly employ for the rest of the season? The most dominant system out of all the ones I might have prepared. I'm looking at what we did in preseason. I saw a lot of tactical changes from our team, especially through different halves and when we took onto the pitch. So I'm not entirely sure that Pep will go right ahead with even the system that won us the treble at the end of last season. And I'm not sure that even if he has any massive tweak that he wants to do to that for the majority of this coming season, I don't think he'll necessarily want to show that in the Community Shield as well. I think he'll use this match as an opportunity to set the team up a little bit different and possibly try out another orthodox method per se, and see how that fares against Arsenal. Because, like I said, both teams I feel like will have something just to try, since there's nothing really hanging on to this game. So I do think that that's one thing definitely to look out for from Arsenal's perspective. I think a little bit of the same. I do think Pep is massively the better manager of Arteta, but I do have a lot of respect for Arteta as a manager. That being said, I don't think he could like go head to head with Pep Guardiola tactically and beat him. However, I do think that he's capable of coming up with tactics that does give us a rigid battle or something different to think about that Pep might not have anticipated for. So I am wary of what Arteta might conjure, but I don't think if he has something like that in the locker right now in mind, he'll want to show us that before the season even starts in the Community Shield. So him as well, I think, will maybe go for something like his main plan, but slightly alter it and try a different alternate way of playing as well. Or maybe even both teams giving players who we might not fully expect to be a part of their strongest 11s starts in this Community Shield game, so they can get up to speed, or try a different way of playing to incorporate them into the team, and a lot of different stuff like that. I think a lot of different ideas might come into play for this particular game. As it relates to players that I'm personally keeping an eye on, for Manchester City, first and foremost, because I don't know. I think Foden is the first player I'm looking to keep an eye on. I like what I saw from Phil Foden in preseason. He looks very electric. He's playing in the midfield, and who's been watching my videos know I've been saying before as well, I think this is when Pep Guardiola, like this current season, is when Pep Guardiola will fully make Phil Foden a midfielder. He has been playing majority of his minutes on the wing for Manchester City, either on the left wing or on the right wing, predominantly on the left wing though. And he has been doing a really good job of that. But I think Phil Foden coming up through the academy as an attacking midfielder, particularly with this level of experience, playing with players like David Silva, Ilkay Gundogan, Kevin De Bruyne, I think he's at that level now where he can move his game into the midfield and still affect the game. Maybe not on the level of a Gundogan or KDB, but in his own unique way that Pep could use as a tool to launch our current title campaign. And remember, we are defending 3 different titles because we won the treble last season. But I think this is a good step now for Foden to get this midfield experience. And I do think he'll still feature in games on the wing throughout the season. I'm almost certain he'll start in the midfield, or he'll play in the midfield for this game if he will be selected. But yeah, I'm definitely keeping an eye on Phil Foden. A big season for him as well. It ended a bit slow for him due to his a massive injuries, as well as having to remove his appendix, being out for time due to that as well. None of which are his fault anyway, but he was primed to have a really good season last season, numbers wise and performance wise. But I think he would have preferred to affect the season a little bit more, in which hopefully he does stay injury free and he can have that type of season this year in the title defense. I'm sure he'll want to play a massive part in us winning the Premier League and the Champions League this season if possible, because he helped out last season. I'm sure he wants to do it as well as a starter though. Kovacic is another player that I'm keeping an eye on for Manchester City. Kovacic has been a new addition from Chelsea. I'm looking at a player like him and I see the experience that he brings. It's one of the things that I was a bit excited um, for with Kovacic coming into the team. I see him in preseason. I'm thinking the thoughts that I've had before were correct. I still stand by the thoughts, and those thoughts were for a player like Gundogan, I don't think he's necessarily a Gundogan replacement out and out, because Gundogan is a player that can play in all three phases of the game. I think Kovacic can do the first two phases really well, but he doesn't have the third phase, which is where you normally see Gundogan popping up with clutch goals and need finishes similar to that of a striker, or maybe even need tucked passes to give us an assist, even free kicks. Gundogan scored a couple of free kicks last season as well. I don't think Kovacic necessarily has that in his locker, but I do think that in the first two phases of the game, that is dropping deep next to Rodri, as well as pushing up a little bit forward into the midfield to keep possession and keep control of the game. I do think Kovacic does both of those really well. I like the pockets of space that he's picking up. And I think Pep is really happy with a player like him who naturally gets his system. I feel like he'll fit in a lot seamlessly in terms of other signings that we've had who had a bit rougher start coming into their first Manchester City season. So Kovacic is another player who I expect to see start in this Community Shield, and I do hope that he has a good performance and gives us that level that we are expecting from him. He will have a good, important role to play in the season. How many games he plays, I'm not sure. I do think he'll be a bit rotated. We do have Kevin De Bruyne looking to come back into the team in September. We do have Phil Foden playing in the midfield now. Calvin Phillips will be looking for minutes. Obviously, Rodri has to play. Best CDM in the world. So Bernardo might even play in that midfield sometimes. There's also young McAtee. If he's staying, it doesn't seem like he's leaving. But, who knows what happens there. But I'm definitely keeping an eye on Foden and Kovacic. And the third Manchester City player that I want to keep an eye on for this particular game is Calvin Phillips. Calvin Phillips has been the topic of debate amongst Manchester City fans for, I would say, the entire summer. Do we keep him? Do we try to upgrade on him? Is he good enough for Manchester City? Did he get a fair chance to prove that he's good or not good enough for Manchester City? Should he be playing games? Is he fit enough? All of this stuff. Is he serious? Does he want to be here? Like, these are all questions I've heard regarding Calvin Phillips. And my stance on it, as people might know already, is just give him time and let's see what he does this season. And then we'll judge him after that season. If it means that he's not good enough, that will be the case. We upgrade on him. And we know that we gave him his chance. If he does succeed elsewhere, we know that it just wasn't meant to be at Manchester City. Or if he does prove that he's good enough, then we do keep him again for our next season. Obviously, we don't need him to perform for one season and then go back to type and start playing like he is now. He's not playing good now and he's not good enough right now. It's just a question of if he can be. I think starting one preseason game, I don't think that was good enough for him. I think he should have started at least another one, but that could have been just down to how Pep wanted to play it out. I think he featured in two or even all three of the preseason games, if I'm not mistaken. They definitely didn't only play one. And he did get an assist, I believe, in one of the games from his pressing. So I do see effort from Calvin Phillips. and I don't want to judge him too prematurely. So I'm very curious to see if Pep will start him in a game like this. For me, he has to be playing at a level in training to tell Pep, I need to get picked for this community shield. I'm so serious. I only started one preseason game. If that was your plan and you just wanted me to make second half appearances and someone else to get a start, that's fine. But I want to start this game and show you what I have been working on. I want to show you that I've improved. That's the type of mentality and energy I want to see coming from Calvin Phillips. He did come back from holiday early into preseason. I think 2 days early. Not anything massive to write home about, but it does show a bit of intent from him. And I just want to see him push on from that. Don't rest on your laurels. We already know the level between you and Rodri has been massive last season. And the level between you and Kovacic in the preseason also doesn't look good. So no, the season is about to start. This is the game you have to be looking at and saying, yo, I need to grab this with both hands, open arms, and just take this opportunity and perform as like so well that Pep wants to start with a Burnley. So that's what I want to see from Calvin Phillips. And why he's a player to watch is because I want to see which way he goes. Like, are you a man or are you a mouse? Like, you need to pick right now. You have to stand up and take a spot in this Manchester City team, or will you allow yourself to get phased out and get replaced? So I'm willing to see what type of mentality he has and what he's made of. So those are the three players I am looking out for from Manchester City. And just to reiterate, those are Phil Foden, Mateo Kovacic, and Calvin Phillips. Now, as it relates to Arsenal, the three players who I'm keeping an eye on for Arsenal are Bukayo Saka is the first one. Thing is with Saka, one thing I remember from last preseason as well is that Mohamed Salah was one of the best players for Liverpool in that Community Shield when we played them. They wanted to come out with that intensity, and they did. They wanted to surprise us with their intensity, and they did. And Salah, who has always been dubbed as their main talisman, was exactly that in the game. He created a lot of chances for them. He assisted Trent's first goal, or Trent's goal, because he only scored that one. And he then scored his own penalty, which was a brilliant one, tucked into the corner. Ederson dived the right way, and he still saved it. So, I mean, he still couldn't save it, my bad. So I'm looking at that level of I'm him performances from Salah. I do think Saka has to do the same because he has that same weight on his shoulders. A lot of people are looking at him to see what he's bringing to the Arsenal team this season. He has been a massively important player for them for the last 2 seasons before this. So I'm looking at a player like Saka. Debates about him have been like, is he world class? Is he not world class? For me, if you are going to say Manchester City is not a big club because they didn't win the Champions League, you have to say that Bukayo Saka can't be world class if he's never even played in the Champions League. So I'm just about keeping the same energy with certain people. I've heard that from even Arsenal fans that we need to win the Champions League before we're considered a big club or a bigger club than them, even though they've never won the Champions League. And now they want to tell me a player that who has never even played in the Champions League, even a single game, is world class. I'm not having it. So I do think that for this type of season, Saka is one of those players who needs to have a massively like shockingly good season. He was that for them last season. He burnt out a little bit towards the end. A lot of people were saying that it's due to being overplayed, but for this particular game at the start of the season, you have only played preseason. No, it's you could say it's a match that matters a bit because the season is starting this week. So Bukayo Saka, I'm looking at him as someone who has to step up with a really good performance in this game, get himself some GA as well, affect the game, have us leaving and saying, you know what, we need to watch out for Saka this season again because he's on it. So the next player that I want to look at for Arsenal is Declan Rice. Now, Declan Rice was shortly pursued by Manchester City and he opted for Arsenal apparently. We did not bid again for him after our first bid was turned down, and after that bid was turned down, we walked away. Arsenal decided that they wanted to bid 105 million pounds, which was accepted by West Ham. So this is a big money signing. He is more expensive than Jack Grealish, and holds the title of the most expensive British player in Premier League history. And as such, I expect to see the same level of pressure on his shoulders that was put onto Jack Grealish. Obviously, both of them are moving to bigger clubs from where they were previously, and they have both played in the Premier League, having a Premier League experience as well. So they're now coming into a higher stakes level of Premier League team, and that comes with pressure, right? As well as the price tag, you have to prove that you're worth that amount of money. So I'm looking at Rice to give a type of performance that will turn heads. I've heard a lot of people saying, even Arsenal fans saying, that they haven't signed a level raiser this season. Someone that comes into their team and visibly takes them up a level, you automatically look at that and say, you know what? That is a serious signing, and you just got a lot better. I think Declan Rice has to put down that type of performance. If maybe not in the Community Shield, like I said, there's not much on the line in this game, but I do want to see something from him to show that that is in his locker. And throughout the season, he has to show that type of level for Arsenal. So I'm very interested to see what Declan Rice will come out with in this game. I've heard from the maybe I'll just call it a little bird. I've heard that some Arsenal fans are also not happy with the level of Rice. I've heard that there are good signs. He's shown moments of brilliance, but all in all, throughout the preseason, he hasn't really been that amazing. And there was a game that he was a little bit poor in as well, from what I'm led to believe. So for this game, you're playing against Manchester City, as I said before. We beat you to the title last season. You have to be looking at putting in a top level performance to basically stake your claim as that guy in that Arsenal midfield. So Bukayo Saka and Declan Rice, I'm definitely keeping an eye on. And the last player I want to personally keep an eye on for Arsenal in this game is Kai Havertz. Some know him as Shy Havertz, but not going to get into that. Kai Havertz obviously left Chelsea to join their league rivals Arsenal, and he is the only attacking midfield signing or forward signing that Arsenal has made this summer. Obviously, their third signing being Jurriën Timber. But for Havertz, he did cost a lot of money. Chelsea got a really good fee from him, which I'm still surprised about. But coming into Arsenal now, you don't have that excuse of being at a dysfunctional Chelsea, so you couldn't get your true self. I've heard that he's been used in incorrect positions before. I've also heard that he's very versatile and can play an array of positions well. I've heard that he has also said that of himself. So, due to the fact that no one really knows where Havertz is going to be playing in this Arsenal team, you have a multitude of positions to choose from. Choose your best one and come and show us what you got. This type of game, I don't think particularly Arsenal even have to go with a formation that includes Havertz. He could be a player on the bench that is brought on to affect the game and change the flow of how it's going, maybe be a bit of a wild card even. But I do think that he's the type of player that Arteta would want to start in this game because he doesn't have that pressure of needing to use him. It's not like a Erdegaard where Erdegaard has to play. He's your best midfielder. With Havertz, I think you could do either or with him. You could fit him into the starting lineup. You could just leave him as a bench player and make him an impact sub. You can really decide that, and that's why for me, I think Arteta will play him in this game so that he can fully decide on that before the season. This is the last game to play. You get to lift the Community Shield and brag about it for a week until the season starts. So I do think that Havertz as well has to be looking at this game as a good opportunity to force a way into this team. So I want to see what he'll come to bring. I know I personally rate Havertz from Bayer Leverkusen. I saw him playing there and he was really good in Germany. I was so, I don't want to say like sad, but disappointed when he went to Chelsea because I don't like Chelsea and I didn't want to see a player that I like to go to Chelsea. And he went and he was just so bad and underwhelming. And I've heard, oh, give him time. But he was at Chelsea for 3 years. I didn't see any real long stretch of good performances from Kai Havertz in Chelsea. Nothing like I saw in Germany, as a matter of fact. So in a completely different surrounding now, similar to what Georgina did leaving Chelsea to Arsenal, you're in a completely different environment now, different team, different manager, different tactics. What can you do to show the world that that German or Bayer Leverkusen Kai Havertz is still there? And what are you going to be bringing to Arsenal this season? A lot of people still cannot answer that question for me. So I'm very interested to see what we will get from Bukayo Saka, Declan Rice, and Kai Havertz in this Community Shield game. Now, as it relates the prediction of the game, I personally believe that this will be a very tight game. I don't think there'll be an out and out winner. I don't think it will be like 3-1 or 3-0, 4-0, I'll say. But I could also see it being a bit like last year as well, where a team just gets a bit ahead and then gets another goal. So I mean, maybe a 3-1 is a bit realistic. I didn't expect last year's Community Shield to be that big of a scoreline either. But for me, I've gone for a 1-1 draw in this game, and I do think that I don't know if it goes to extra time after that or it goes to penalties, but I do believe that we win. Alternately, I do think 2-1 is a good prediction I would use for Manchester City to win again. Maybe in regulation time, if it doesn't go to 1-1, or if there is extra time, we can get that 2-1. But I do believe that however this game plays out, we will get the win. I do think that Pep will want that bit of mental edge over them to say that, we got the first half a jump on them, to say why for that, by the way, but up on that. We got that extra step on them, so that the next time we do play them, similar to when we beat them in the FA Cup last season and then we played them in the league, we got that one extra step on them, so that we had that mental edge. We beat you guys last time. Now you're looking to change that and get your first win over us for the season. So I do think Pep will want this win a bit more than Arteta does, although I do think that Arteta needs it a bit more. So I'm looking to see Manchester City dominate the game, dominate possession, or maybe even I'm not sure. Maybe possessions a bit even, because Arsenal does pride themselves on outer possession as well, and I think they outpossessed us twice last season. But I'm looking to see a slightly more dominant Manchester City than I am an Arsenal. And those players, particularly Phil Foden, I expect to see him score a goal. Hopefully a goal and an assist would be nice, but I want to see Phil Foden score. He's the one I'm mainly keeping my eyes on for the majority of this game, because I'm very, very excited to see what he's going to bring to the Manchester City midfield. And I think he'll play a lot of minutes throughout the season as well, due to the fact that we are not going to buy another midfielder to replace Gundogan, apparently. But yeah, that is all I have for today. Please leave me your thoughts down below in the comment section as well. Don't forget to like the video and help me get up to 80 subscribers as well. I think I'm still 4 away. So that'll be massive if you guys could help me get to 80 subscribers. I'd really appreciate it. If you already subscribed, just send the video to one person and ask them to subscribe. Because eventually that will help me get up to the 80, and you don't know. Massively respect that, is it? But yeah, that's pretty much it. 1-1 Manchester City to win on penalties or extra time. That's what I'm going with. And I will be doing a match reaction after the game as well. It will be immediately after the game, or maybe 5 minutes after the final whistle, because I have to get settled and all of that. But I don't want to do an instant match reaction, since I won't be able to break this down. And hopefully another video by Tuesday, and then a preview for the Burnley game on Wednesday. So a lot coming up. The season start back. We have to get back to work, and I hope to see a lot of you guys here as well with me on the journey, because I do think this will be a very special season. But yeah, until next time, my side. Peace.